How can you not giggle? I'm Sam Bear from Class Winners Collector Vehicles, and we're in the automotive equivalent of a minion. This thing is hysterical. It's a 1996 Daihatsu Midget 2. And I tell you, if you can get more smiles per mile in another vehicle that doesn't break the bank, I want to know what it is. The first look that most Americans got of the Daihatsu Midget 2 was on Gran Turismo 2, which came out on the PlayStation back in 1999. But the cars actually debuted in 1996 in Japan. And they ran all the way through 2001. We had to wait until they were 25 years old to start bringing them into the country. And I tell you, it's worth the wait. This car captured so many people's hearts because, let's face it, it's about the quirkiest looking thing out there on US roads. And it basically looks like a cartoon character. What makes the Midget 2 so quirky? Quite simply, it is a one-seat pickup truck with a spare tire on the front that's almost a foot shorter than the original Minis. I mean, it's crazy. Now, in actuality, not all Midget 2s fit this description. In 1997, about a little over half a year after the originals came out, they added two options. First, you could get a cargo van with a hard section over the bed. Additionally, the automatic transmission became available, and with that, because it was a column shifted automatic, there was a small seat, so technically it became a two-person vehicle. Let's get some history out of the way. The Midget 2 is actually a reincarnation of the original Daihatsu Midget, which started out in 1957 as a three-wheel pickup truck for in-city deliveries. With an air-cooled engine, it was basically like a 25-30 mile an hour vehicle. Now, even in 1957, Daihatsu was by no means the first company to name one of its vehicle a midget. It was actually a very common name amongst manufacturers, and it really dates back to 1929 when MG started naming its small sports cars Midget. So when Daihatsu reintroduced the Midget 2 in 1996, they didn't just want a delivery vehicle, because that's fundamentally what the Hi-Jet was. They wanted more something of a lifestyle vehicle that could also be a cool commercial runabout for tight cities, but also serve as an advertising vehicle. Bed back there, it's about 4 feet long. So it became very popular with like pubs for delivering kegs. The Midget is really in its natural habitat here in the city. It throws you off because it's 6 feet tall, but it's actually really short and even more narrow. So it's 9'2" in length. That is basically over a foot shorter. In fact, it's like a foot and a half shorter than most K vehicles. It is also about 13, 14 inches narrower than a contemporary Miata. When the Midget debuted in 1996, They were offered in three.
Nice, buddy.
Thank you. They're offered in 3 different flavors. At the very base was the B type, and you didn't even get side rear covers for the battery and such. About $250 more, you could get the D type. That's what we're driving right now. For over $1,000 more on a car that originally cost about $4,500, you could get the R type. The R type gave you a number of look at me details, like a chrome roll bar and bumper lip bar, as well as a fiberglass body colored spare tire cover. But all in all, they're all the same vehicle with the same engine and same transmission choices, just with different appointments. Speaking of appointments, there's not much inside that you get. Steering wheel, speedometer, fuel gauge, and a shifter. That's it. The window on the left side of the car, because it's not really the passenger window, it doesn't even have a window winder. The window doesn't go down. That's pretty funny. If you wanted more, you had to order from the a la carte menu. For $1,100, you could get an air conditioning system that bolted down here to give you more than just the blower fan, which doesn't even allow you hot or cold. You also have the ability to get a radio, but that was actually pretty expensive. I mean, that was about $230 for the AM/FM. The hallmark of the Midget 2 is the fact that in most cases, it's a single seater. So you're almost sitting in the center. You have this rear view mirror that's almost at the passenger window. It's a totally unique experience. Very expansive glass here. It's something that once you experience, there's nothing like it. Midget 2, you'll hear something about how slow they are, but in reality, most people haven't driven a good one. And the fact of the matter is the engine that is directly under my butt cheeks, it's a high-jet engine. It's a 659cc overhead cam carbureted 3-cylinder, and the only difference between the high-jets and the Midgets is that the Midgets is tuned for more low-end torque. And if you consider what the old hot rodders say, that torque wins races, and so there may be 31 horsepower in the Midget. The Midget has 38 pound-feet of torque. So basically, this is a lot like driving a 2-wheel drive Honda Acti. In fact, their power-to-weight ratio, this has got more get up and go. And as far as its top speed, it's rated at 70 miles an hour. Now we're going uphill at just about 60 miles an hour, and we're still accelerating. We're at 60. The big problem with top speed and why you won't see these a lot on the highway is quite simple. The rear track is about 1 inch and some narrower than the front. So when there's nothing in the back and no weight in the back, it tends to wobble a little bit. But with good tires and experienced driving, you can definitely drive this on the freeway. It's just a little high revving, so it's more at home on the B roads. The handling on the Midget 2 is actually pretty phenomenal. And as we head into a tight turn, you see, it doesn't roll over on itself. I mean, it's actually fabulous. And keep in mind, there was actually a spec racing series for Midget 2s in Japan. It's hysterical to watch because they're totally stock tires and everything. And although these 145/95 10-inch tires are like Cheerios, they give you just enough grip for this car. And keep in mind, this car, it weighs like 1,240 pounds. 1,240 pounds. I mean, that's featherweight. That's insanely light. The brakes in the Midget 2 may be one of the most surprising parts of it. When you're at low speed, these four-wheel drums, let's put it this way. Dang! I mean, dang! They just haul you in. The first time I had to panic stop in this thing, some woman pulled out of a driveway backwards, and it's like a hair trigger. I put my foot on the brake and all four wheels just almost put me through the front windshield here. It's crazy. Oh, and keep in mind, turning radius in this thing, it's insane. I mean, we could make absolute U-turns in the middle of a normal street. How crazy is that? I know. You want to know, is this thing a total death trap? And the honest answer is, look, the whole thing is a crumple zone. This thing's very light gauge steel, and yeah, if you get hit in this, you're likely going to die a very quick death. So why do we not see more of these Daihatsu Midget 2s on the road? Well, it's actually pretty simple. First, they were not made and sold in really high production, although Daihatsu has never published the production of these. Next, at about $4,500 in equivalent yen when they came out in the mid-90s, they were cheap, which means they were cheaply produced. The metal, it's thin gauge. The paint, it's so thin that you can barely pick it up on a standard digital paint gauge. So when we see these, they're often at auction missing paint, rusted to the hilt, and of course they were used as in-city delivery vehicles, so they're often really dented or just plain have been scrapped a long time ago, so we don't even get to see them to come up for sale. Which means if you can find a low mileage one like this 18,560 kilometer version that I'm driving in right now, well, it makes it a great find. At the end of the day, the Midget 2 is just one of the ultimate collector vehicles for a collection, because it's relatively inexpensive. They're still fairly rare. They serve a great bit of a utility. I've thrown stuff into the back of this and brought it between different places, and it serves as much utility as a regular K-truck. But it has so much more personality, and people love it, from the youngest of young to the veterans of AARP membership. Men, women, children, it doesn't matter. Everybody looks at this and smiles and honks and waves, because nobody ever thinks that a person who would drive one of these is some kind of arrogant Turismo 2, I figured I'd love it. And you know what? It didn't disappoint. I love this. I want to keep this thing because it's just so much fun. And there's just nothing else like it out there in the world. Because anything that usually is this quirky doesn't drive this well or have this much utility or offer a 6'4" guy tons of space. Yeah. I'm in heaven.